Okay, so you know how I'm always going on about wishing my apartment would just clean itself?
You've mentioned it.
Well, I was looking at robot vacuums and wow, the tech is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But it really got me thinking, like, what are these things actually seeing in my home,
Right.
hearing? And then the big question, what are they doing with all that information?
Yeah.
So it turns out I'm not alone. We're going to be digging into this article all about the Ecovacs D-bot vacuums
Okay.
and some interesting findings about, their data collection. So you're thinking about getting one of these robot vacuums yourself. We're going to be exploring, how smart of a move that is, privacy-wise.
Yeah. So I think what's fascinating here is this kind of, tension we all feel between wanting a more automated life,
Yeah.
but also what we might be giving up for that. And the article really digs into how some debug models, even with these security flaws, we'll get into that later, are like hoovering up data from our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just talking about like dirt patterns here.
Yep.
We're talking photos, videos, audio recordings, all to train their AI.
So it's not just about like the vacuum knowing the floor plan, it's recording what's happening, but there's an opt-in, right, for all that.
Yeah, so there is an opt-in system, but the article points out that it's not super transparent.
Okay.
The language they use doesn't really spell out exactly what data is being collected. You just get like vague phrases like improving functionality. Honestly, who actually reads those privacy policies buried deep in the app?
Not me, and I'm going to bet most people don't. But even if you were okay with some data sharing, this article highlights the work of this cybersecurity researcher, Dennis Geese, and he found some pretty major security flaws in these DBOT models. So what's the likelihood that a hacker could access my information?
Right. That's a big question. These vulnerabilities in their products, make you wonder about the security of their servers and how safe is our data?
Right.
Like, if their devices have these weaknesses, what does that say about their back-end systems? It really makes you think twice.
Yeah.
That idea of a self-cleaning house, suddenly not quite as appealing when you consider the trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little creepy, right? It's like, these are intimate glimpses into our homes. They're recording. They could be compromised. It's you start to think, what are they actually doing with this information they're collecting?
Right, because, yeah, they say it's to improve AI, because what does that really mean?
So Ecovacs says that all this data is basically to train their algorithms, right? For things like object recognition, better navigation,
Okay.
In fact, they even say in the article, and I quote, building a deep learning model without data is like making a house without blueprints.
Hmm.
So they're making the argument that they need this data to make their product better.
I mean, yeah, I get it. Like, AI needs information to, like, learn, but still.
Yeah.
It's a little creepy thinking about all that data, like my furniture, my stuff, being fed into this system, And it's giving me flashbacks to that whole iRobot thing a while back, remember? When those photos taken by the devices ended up online?
Oh, yeah.
Like, really personal photos?
The iRobot case, that was a real wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people.
Right.
Because even if people consent to data collection, things can go wrong.
Yeah, it really makes you think. Like, even if a company says, we anonymize the data,
Right.
is it truly anonymous?
Especially when we're talking about images of our homes,
Right.
our
Yeah.
stuff, potentially even our location data, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how anonymous can it really be?
Yeah, and that's the million-dollar question. Anonymization is often presented as this like simple solution.
Right.
But it's really not foolproof. And the iRobot case also showed us another thing, another vulnerability,
Okay.
which is third-party contractors. Because it turned out that iRobot was working with this company, Scale AI, to analyze their data. And that's where the leak happened.
Right.
So even if you trust a company with your data, you also have to think about who they're working with, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like this whole chain of trust that you have to have.
Exactly.
So, like, where do we go from here? Are we stuck choosing between cool tech and our privacy? Like, is there a way to have both?
Well, you know what? There might be. This article talks about this really interesting research happening in Australia.
Oh, okay.
They're developing this new camera technology that could be a real game changer.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
So you know how these devices, they capture images, right?
Mm-hmm.
These new cameras, they actually scramble the images before they're even digitized. So even if someone got a hold of the data, it would be useless.
So you're getting like the functionality of the camera without the privacy risk.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a potential win-win.
But would it still be able to like navigate and stuff with the scrambled image?
That's the thing. The technology allows the robot to move around and do its thing,
Yeah.
even with the images scrambled.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that Australian camera tech, that sounds like a real game changer, not just for, robot vacuums, but for all kinds of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a perfect example of how we can design with privacy in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like bolt it on later.
Exactly.
So it's not about being like anti-technology. It's about demanding better, safer tech.
100%. And I'm hoping this kind of research really lights a fire under other companies to like really prioritize user privacy.
Right. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here today. Everything from kind of sneaky data collection to security flaws, but also some really cool solutions out there. So, for everyone listening, what are some key takeaways to keep in mind, especially if you're, thinking about getting a robot vacuum or really any smart home device?
Well, I think the biggest one is like, even with something as simple as a vacuum cleaner, these devices are collecting way more information than we realize.
Hmm.
And yeah, companies are going to say it's to make our lives easier, and that's great. But I mean, convenience shouldn't come at the cost of our privacy.
Right, and it's not always super clear, what information they're collecting, how they're using it, if they're even protecting it properly.
Yeah,
I mean, we talked about Ecovacs, but this is so much bigger than just one company.
totally.
Yeah.
This is like industry-wide.
Yeah.
And I think the iRobot case, that was a huge red flag for people. Like anonymization, it's not enough.
Right.
Data leaks, they happen, and they can be really damaging.
So what can we do about this? We shouldn't have to choose between like cool technology and, keeping our personal lives private.
No,
Right.
not at all. And I think it starts with awareness,
Right.
right? Like just knowing the risks. It lets you make more informed decisions about what you bring into your home.
Right.
And then we got to demand better from these companies. Like look closely at their data policies, ask them the tough questions about their security, and really support the companies that are developing, privacy-focused solutions,
Exactly.
like those researchers in Australia.
Because, I mean, our homes, they should be our safe spaces, right? Not places we feel like constantly watched.
Right.
So next time you're, thinking about getting a robot vacuum or any new gadget, just ask yourself, what am I actually trading for this convenience?
Right.
And is there a way to be like smart about my home and my privacy?
That's it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for digging into this with me.
Thanks for having me.